thing to say. Tyrone Woodley, I'm coming for you. If you don't answer the front door, I'm going to knock it in, and I'm going to take what's mine, that welterweight belt.
Knockouts, mystery beefs, disappearing flags, and fighters calling each other out at the drop of a hat. Welcome to the absolute circus that is the UFC right now. If you've been following the drama, you know there's always something brewing behind the scenes. Today we're diving into the hottest stories shaking up the Octagon and the internet. From a new rivalry at the UFC Performance Institute to a brewing flag controversy that has fans questioning if the UFC is actually practicing what it preaches. We've got a lineup of jaw-dropping developments you won't want to miss. In the next few minutes, you'll find out why Colby Covington might face a former friend turned sworn enemy in the cage, how Justin Gaethje is handling the aftermath of his viral knockout loss, and why Belal Muhammad has everyone talking about his missing flag. And that's barely scratching the surface, because when Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira, and Kamaru Usman speak up, the entire MMA community tunes in. Buckle up, because we're about to race through the biggest bombshells in the UFC. Ready? Let's jump in. Colby Covington is no stranger to controversy. The man thrives on it, but his latest dust-up might surprise even his biggest critics. The drama kicked off at the UFC Performance Institute when Covington reportedly kicked out TBA Gimbo, his own former teammate from MMA Masters, while he was cutting weight for a major fight against Leon Edwards back in 2023. At one point, Colby and TBA were thick as thieves, sharing strategy tips, drilling takedown defenses, and even cheering each other on during sparring sessions. Now they're lobbing insults faster than Conor McGregor tweets after midnight. What went wrong? According to TBA, Colby pulled rank and had him booted out, citing bad blood and an unwillingness to share the same training space. Colby, of course, insists TBA disrespected him, but TBA's side of the story is that Colby has become so entrenched in his persona that he's burning bridges left and right. TBA Gimbo is practically daring Colby to call him out in an official fight, saying, "If I'm such an easy target, why not prove it in the Octagon?" But here's where things get even more interesting. TBA isn't out for a street brawl. He wants a regulated contest, one where the whole world can watch them settle the score. Rumor has it that TBA might even be petitioning the UFC to make this grudge match happen. With Colby always looking to amp up the drama, there's a real possibility this rivalry escalates way beyond gym gossip. The question is, will Colby take the bait? Stay tuned, because TBA's next move could push Covington into a corner he can't tweet his way out of. And while Colby's stirring the pot in one part of the MMA universe, another high-profile fighter is dealing with a completely different sort of chaos. Viral knockout footage that has fans both fascinated and worried.
Look at this. Holloway just told him, stand right here. Oh, big connection late.
Imagine getting blasted by Max Holloway so hard that you end up twitching on the canvas and trending all over social media. That's exactly what happened to Justin Gaethje at UFC 300. The clip of Gaethje's post-KO tremors went viral within minutes, prompting every armchair doctor to start diagnosing him from their couches. But Gaethje's reaction? Zero shame, zero apologies. He says he'd do it all over again, and you can't help but respect that iron-willed mindset. Gaethje's known for his stand-and-bang approach, and he's never pretended otherwise. He meets his opponent in the middle and thrives on high-risk, high-reward exchanges. Sure, it's cost him in the past, like this meltdown against Holloway, but he's adamant he'd accept the same fight again. That's a double-edged sword. While fans applaud his courage, many are concerned about his long-term health. Head trauma is a real issue, and Gaethje's highlight reel is basically a library of punishing strikes, both absorbed and delivered. Yet for Gaethje, the possibility of damage isn't a deterrent. "I got my ass knocked out last fight and I'm dying to get back in there," he said. Love him or hate him, you can't deny the man's fighting spirit. So what's next for him? He's calling out a range of opponents, from Arman Tsarukyan to Charles Oliveira, showing he's ready for anyone, anywhere. The big question is whether his coaches or the UFC might want him to pace himself. But if you know Justin Gaethje, you know moderation isn't exactly his style. While Gaethje's swallowing knockouts and forging ahead, Belal Muhammad is taking heat over something far less violent but just as controversial, a missing flag that's got fans and fighters buzzing. Belal Muhammad has always worn his Palestinian heritage on his sleeve, so when the official UFC.com event page for UFC 315 showed every fighter's national flag but left Belal's spot blank, alarms immediately went off. At first, Belal assumed it was an oversight, maybe an error on the site, but days passed and his flag was still absent. That's when he took to social media, calling for UFC President Dana White to right the wrong. After all, Dana has publicly stated he's all about free speech and letting fighters represent who they want. Could it be a simple mistake, or is there more to this? Many fans suspect the UFC might be quietly discouraging certain political or national flags to avoid controversy. Belal, however, doesn't buy the coincidence explanation. He's been an advocate for Palestinian visibility for years, and he feels erasing his flag is tantamount to silencing his identity. The UFC has previously flirted with banning flags altogether to keep fights from becoming too politicized, but this instance feels targeted, especially when you see everyone else's flags displayed clearly. Belal's stance is firm. I fight for my people. Their flag should be next to their champion's name. The backlash on social media has been fierce, with some supporting Belal's call for respect and others claiming the UFC has every right to manage its presentation. Regardless of which side you're on, it's a story that hits a nerve beyond MMA. Belal isn't backing down, and the ball is now in Dana White's court. Will we see the Palestinian flag reinstated, or is this the start of a deeper conflict about freedom of expression in the UFC? But while Belal battles for his flag, there's a rematch on the horizon that's dividing the MMA world. Israel Adesanya weighed in on Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev II, and his opinions are as provocative as you'd expect. When Israel the Last Stylebender Adesanya breaks down a fight, he dissects it like a chess grandmaster. He's known for his meticulous approach, both in and out of the cage, so when asked about Justin Gaethje taking on Rafael Fiziev again, Izzy had a lot to say. He doesn't see Gaethje's KO loss to Max Holloway as a sign of permanent damage. In fact, he chalks it up to a momentary lapse in defense, something he believes Gaethje can correct with the right game plan. Izzy commended Gaethje's head movement in the later rounds of their first encounter with Fiziev. He thinks Gaethje just needs to replicate that defensive discipline from the opening bell. However, Adesanya also knows Fiziev is a powerhouse who can capitalize on the smallest mistake. Fiziev's explosive Muay Thai style has been terrorizing the division, and if Gaethje walks in with his classic all-or-nothing mindset, Fiziev might turn the rematch into another highlight reel. The real question is, will Gaethje adjust his style for longevity, or will he keep rolling the dice? Izzy seems cautiously optimistic that Gaethje can outsmart Fiziev this time, provided he doesn't let that Holloway knockout haunt him. But MMA fans know that unpredictability is half the fun. Gaethje and Fiziev are two men who refuse to backpedal. If you're looking for a strategic chess match, you might be disappointed. If you're looking for fireworks, buckle up, because this rematch could steal the show. Speaking of strategic battles, Alex Pereira is preparing for a potential showdown with Magomed Ankalaev, but he's not exactly shaking in his boots. Mention Alex Poatan Pereira's name, and you're bound to hear whispers of his terrifying left hook or his storied kickboxing career. But the conversation shifts when you bring up a well-rounded grappler like Magomed Ankalaev, a man with a robust wrestling base and a knack for controlling fights on the ground. Still, Pereira remains unfazed. He doesn't think Ankalaev is the biggest test he's ever faced, though he acknowledges Magomed has earned his place in line for a title shot. A lot of people still wonder if Pereira's grappling can handle elite wrestlers. After all, we've seen him face adversity on the ground before. Pereira's response? He's been training MMA for years now, improving his takedown defense and sharpening his get-ups. He also questions whether Ankalaev really wants to stand and bang, or if he's using that claim as a smokescreen before shooting for the legs. One subtle mind game Pereira is playing, calling out Ankalaev's public statements about wanting to stand and strike. Pereira says opponents often say they'll outstrike him until they eat a few shots, then it's panic wrestle time. If Ankalaev genuinely tries to trade with Pereira, we might see a short night. If he decides to grapple, Pereira insists he's ready. Either way, the question remains, is Poatan's confidence well-founded, or is he underestimating a world-class grappler? But while light heavyweight intrigues swirl, there's a fight for pecking order over in the welterweight division, and Kamaru Usman has plenty to say about Belal Muhammad's stance on Leon Edwards. The welterweight division is packed like a rush hour highway. Leon Edwards enjoyed his moment at the top, but Belal Muhammad has been grinding his way up the ranks, demanding a rematch that Leon once laughed off. Now that Leon's no longer the champion, Belal's flipping the script and telling Leon to wait his turn, just like he had to. And Kamaru Usman? He's watching all this unfold with a grin on his face. Usman, a former champ himself, knows exactly how stacked this division is. Shavkat Rakhmonov, Gilbert Burns, Sean Brady, Colby Covington, Belal Muhammad. The list of contenders is practically endless. Leon can't just saunter into another title shot without going through the gauntlet. That's Usman's view anyway. He also finds the role reversal between Belal and Leon hilarious. Leon used to brush off Belal like he wasn't worth the time, and now Belal is returning the favor. Fair play or petty revenge? Depends on your perspective. At the end of the day, Usman sees the welterweight division as a series of must-see matchups. The belts, the rankings, the grudges, it's all fuel for the next big fight. And if Belal decides to slam the door on Leon, fans might witness one of the strangest 180s in recent MMA history. After all, Belal had to wait 3 years to get his shot. Making Leon wait might be a delicious twist of fate. Speaking of twists, Colby Covington and Robert Whittaker both chimed in on the Gaethje vs. Fiziev sequel, and their takes could add another layer of unpredictability to an already chaotic fight landscape. It's not often you see Colby Covington and Robert Whittaker agree on something, but when it comes to Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev II, both consider it a true coin flip. Whittaker wonders how Gaethje's psyche will hold up after that recent knockout loss. Gaethje has historically bounced back from defeats, but a highlight reel KO can linger in a fighter's mind. Covington, meanwhile, praises Fiziev's striking arsenal and hints that Fiziev might exploit Gaethje's defensive lapses. The big if is whether Gaethje will try to refine his game or stick to his signature brawling style. If Gaethje goes toe-to-toe in a wild exchange, Fiziev might replicate or even surpass Holloway's success. But if Gaethje shows up with improved footwork and calculated aggression, he could pull off the upset. Covington's final note: never count out a man who'd rather get slept than second-guess himself. That's Gaethje in a nutshell. No half measures, no fear. Whittaker also notes that Fiziev has grown significantly since their first meeting. He's no longer just a flashy striker. He's evolving his grappling and clinch work. Put it all together, and you have a tantalizing rematch that could either be a brutal knockout or a fight of the year candidate. Either way, these two are set on a collision course that promises fireworks. But as we gear up for that rematch, several other fighters are making waves. Ilia Topuria has a cryptic message for fans. Sean Strickland took a tumble on the slopes, and Tom Aspinall is rattling off predictions that might shake the heavyweight division to its core. So here we are, on the edge of multiple cliffhangers. Will Colby Covington settle his beef with TBA Gimbo in the Octagon? Can Justin Gaethje shrug off another knockout and wreak havoc in a potential rematch with Fiziev? And is Belal Muhammad's missing flag just a glitch or a deliberate move by the UFC? Meanwhile, Israel Adesanya's strategic breakdowns might help Gaethje, or they might go unnoticed if Gaethje decides to charge full speed ahead. Alex Pereira is preparing for Magomed Ankalaev's wrestling threats, but the only thing certain is that once that cage door closes, talk is cheap. Kamaru Usman, ever the observer, points out the logjam at welterweight, proving that no champion's path is clear in a division that's stacked from top to bottom. Finally, with Ilia Topuria's cryptic announcement, Sean Strickland's comedic crash, and Tom Aspinall's heavyweight musings, it feels like every corner of the UFC is sizzling with fresh storylines. The question is, which of these dramas will define the next wave of UFC history? Could TBA Gimbo become Colby's kryptonite and derail his title hopes? Will Gaethje's brawling courage finally meet its match in Fiziev's precise striking? Is Ankalaev the dark horse who exposes Pereira's ground game, or will Pereira stand tall yet again? And what does Belal's flag fight mean for the broader conversation around fighters' personal and national identities? No matter which storyline hooks you the most, one truth remains. In the UFC, the script is never finished. The moment you think you figured it all out is the moment the entire landscape flips on its head. If you haven't already, subscribe and join the conversation below. Let us know which fight or controversy has you the most amped. Is Belal in the right? Can Gaethje rebound? And will Colby ever answer TBA Gimbo's open challenge? Drop your thoughts, because the dialogue you start here is exactly what fuels the next round of stories in the wild, unrelenting world of MMA. Thanks for sticking around till the end. Keep your notifications on. You won't want to miss the next seismic shift in this ever-evolving saga, because in the UFC, every day is another chance for a highlight reel, a headline, or a complete shocker. Stay tuned. The best and craziest is yet to come.